1, Thursday, January 24th, and this is our full county board meeting, and please have a roll call.
Bergson. Here. Carter. Here. Cowart. Esri. Here. Harper. Here. Hartke. Here. James. Here. Jay. Here. Kibler. Here. Langenheim. Maxwell. Here. McGuire. Here. Michaels. Here. Mitchell. Here. Petrie. Here. Quisenberry. Richards.
Here.
Rosales. Schrader. Here. Schwartz. Here. Alex. Here. Kurtz.
Here. Mr. Langenheim just walked in. Thank you. All right, let's start with our prayer. This is something that I received on Monday, and I'll go into that in communications, but this is from Martin Luther King. This was his birthday this week on the same day as the inauguration, and I felt this was very apropos for our prayer this evening. Courage is an inner resolution to go forward despite obstacles. Cowardice is submissive surrender to circumstances. Courage brings creativity. Cowardice represses fear and is mastered by it. Cowardice asks the question, is it safe? Expedience asks the question, is it politic? Vanity asks the question, is it popular? But conscience asks the question, is it right? And there comes a time when we must take a position that is neither safe, nor politic, nor popular, but one must take it because it is right. Martin Luther King, Jr. Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Have a notice of the meeting, please.
Notice is hereby given that a regular meeting of the County Board, Champaign County, Illinois, will convene on January 24th, 2013, 7 p.m. in the Lyle Shields Meeting Room, Brookins Administrative Center, 1776 East Washington Street, Urbana, Illinois, in said county for the purpose of allowing and ordering payments of claims against the county, receiving and acting upon reports of committees, and such other matters as may be brought before said meeting, which said meeting shall continue in session from day to day until the completion of said business.
Thank you. I'd like a motion for approval of the agenda and addendum.
A motion to receive and place on file.
Oh, I'm sorry. A motion to receive on file, Mr. Mitchell. Second, please. Mr. Esri. Discussion. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Approval of the motion to approve the agenda and addenda, please. So moved by Ms. Cowart, second by Mr. Carter. Is there any discussion, Mr. Alex?
Request that we add acceptance and placing on file the auditor's report as the last item under finance, since we were unable to do that at Cal.
Thank you. I'm sorry, Ms. Petrie? Yes.
Just a point of clarification. It says on the agenda that I've lost it. The committee of the whole meeting is to start at 6:30 p.m. Is that something that we need to revisit as to the time, or is that going to be the new time for committee of the whole?
That is the time, unless you want to change that here tonight, and we will have a new calendar for the policy committee to approve with any of the schedule changes that have been done since the original calendar was adopted.
Mr. Kibler?
When we changed it to 6:30, I believe that was done in the December full board meeting. We changed it specifically just for January and not for February. So the calendar still should have stated 6 o'clock February 12th as opposed to 6:30. So technically the calendar still says 6.
Well, except that you are approving a rules change tonight, which takes that out of the rules. And so we were going to present all calendar changes, including some committee night meeting changes to policy. And you can do one or the other. We can change it back to 6 o'clock. Our understanding was you wanted it to be at 6:30. It no longer requires, after tonight's meeting, a waiver of the rules because you took that out of the rules. What you're voting on tonight removes that from the rules.
Understood. At the original December meeting, though, it was just for one meeting. Otherwise, it was going to remain at 6 o'clock for the remainder of the calendar. So if that's the case,
It's up to the board. It's whatever you want to do.
I'd like to see it move back to 6 if possible.
Thank you. Mr. Allen?
I like it better at 6:30, but my recollection is of Mr. Kibler is that Mr. Kibler is correct, that it was explicitly only for the January meeting that we've made the change. So I think, as far as I'm concerned, it's at 6 unless we decide otherwise.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. Mr. McGuire?
The calendar does state 6 o'clock meetings for the full year, because aren't we supposed to present our calendars ahead of time and dated and?
Which is why we will present to policy a new calendar to amend the calendar that was originally adopted for this year. Nothing precludes you from making amendments to it.
Okay. Any other comments? All right. All in favor of the agenda? I'm sorry.
Does this need a motion, point of order? Does it need a motion to change the agenda back to 6? Or what is the ruling here, since it's more of an informational type?
You would do that when you get to that point on the agenda.
Right, let me get to the point on the agenda, and then we can make that motion. We're not
Okay.
at that point yet.
Okay.
Okay. We're back at the approval of the agenda and addendum. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, now these are the date and time of the next regular meetings. Now, we've made some changes, so take a look at your agenda. The standing committees on February 5th will now be facilities. We've asked each of the committee members if that was okay for a switch, and we got the approval for that. So February 5th, 2013 will be facilities at 6 p.m. Thursday, February 7th, 6 p.m. will now be ELOC on Thursday. So please make those two changes to your agenda. On Friday, February 8th, Highway and Transportation will be at 9 a.m. At the Highway Department. Mr. James.
Does that mean that facilities will now be the Tuesday meeting from this point forward? Thank you.
All right, let's get to the Committee of the Whole on Tuesday, February 20th at 6:30 p.m. Mr. Kibler, you want to make a motion to change that to 6?
Sure, Mr. Chair, I move that for this particular February meeting that we adhere to the original calendar of 6 o'clock and adjust this time to 6 o'clock for this Cal meeting.
Second.
I have a second by Mr. James. Discussion? Mr. Esri?
Jeff, were you meaning for just the February or for all concurrent?
Theoretically, it's
Yeah.
all of them.
Yeah.
But technically, the calendar's set to 6 now, as it is.
Yeah.
But for this particular item, it's currently set to 6:30, so we just need to correct, if you will, until we get later on in the agenda, and
Right.
we'll address it
We're going
again.
to get a new one come next month. Okay, any other discussion? I'm sorry.
I think
Miss?
a lot of us would rather have 6:30. I think it's,
Microphone, please.
Yeah.
I think a lot of us would like the 6:30 meeting. It seemed to have a lot of approval when we discussed it.
Okay. Any other discussion? Mr. Richards?
I'd like to amend the 6 p.m. to be 6:30.
All right.
Second that.
Do I have a second? Ms. Berkson, Mr. Kibler?
Point of order at this
It's a-
point.
Oh,
Point of order
guys.
at this point, because
All right, all right, settle down.
the idea is not changing the time for next meeting per se, because that's going to happen later on in this discussion. The idea is this particular item as a information-only type of thing is not adhering to our calendar. So if we want to get into discussion of 6:30 versus 6, we need to make sure that what we have currently is correct and then move forward. Technically, I didn't know we were going to talk about in the agenda later on that we're going to move it to 6:30. That's not something that I realized was going to be part of today's agenda.
No. That's not what I meant, if that's what I said, I'm sorry. You are approving a change to the board rules, which takes the start time out.
Okay.
It's not there isn't a discussion item tonight about the start times for the cow. Once that was removed from the board rules, which is done by your action tonight, at the next policy meeting, we were going to submit the amended calendar for approval.
And I agree with that. But what can't happen tonight is because it wasn't on the, theoretically, the agenda to change the time of the already scheduled cow, you can't move it to 6:30. This has to be back to 6. It can't change without board action, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, it's subject to the board rule, so since you haven't adopted that yet, I suppose you could, like you did last month, and move to waive the board rule that it says it starts at 6 to start it at 6:30. We didn't do that because we thought by the end of this meeting that board rule no longer exists, which is why it was done this way.
We voted on that.
Mr. McGuire.
But wouldn't we have to change the calendar before we change the time? So right now, the calendar still exists at 6 o'clock, and we haven't made that vote to change it from 6 o'clock, but yet
You could do
we've
that
made it 6:30.
tonight.
That would,
I think you
wouldn't
could
that
do it
require
tonight.
a change, an agenda that was over 48 hours and 14 days?
14 days doesn't apply after tonight.
Mr. Ezra and then Mr. Martin.
Yeah. Maybe this is a little bit out of order, but with the agenda, but the resolution that's in the consent says 6. Page 38.
So I'm confused. Are we currently voting on when to have the cow meeting or not?
We're voting on your amendment right now, before we go to the main motion.
Well, is it, well, I'm basically saying, Mr. Kibler, what's going on, that's not germane. Is that germane? Is that what we're doing right now?
It's wrong.
Mr. Carter.
Yeah. I thought we already has established the time for the regular board meetings. Huh? This supposed to be just, I guess, a special meeting, for this one meeting that changed from to 6:30. So why are we going back, rehashing the whole thing?
Just move it.
See, that's what's wrong with this board. We don't have no sense of, you know, there's no rules anymore. Just like Chinese, you throw them up and they fall down, say jing, jing, jing. That's what we do anymore.
Okay, thank you, Mr.
Come
Carter. All right,
on.
pursuant to the rules, we will change the time on Mr. Kibler. Let's just vote on Mr. Kibler's motion as according to the rules, 6 o'clock. All in favor of 6 o'clock, please say aye.
Wait, point of order.
I'm sorry, Mr. Alex.
I think the amendment is on the floor. I'm gonna argue the amendment's improper because the county
the
board
rules-
rules as they
Correct.
currently stand do not allow us to change the time without
that's
changing
why I
the rules,
moved
which
back to
requires the
Mr.
14
Kibler's
days. So I
motion.
think the only.
No.
No,
You can waive a rule anytime. You don't need 14 days' notice to waive a rule, which is what you would be doing if you change the start time. You would waive the 6:30 PM start time rule. You don't need 14 days'
so
notice to do
Mr.
that.
Richards' amendment is to suspend the rules to set the time at 6:30?
Yes. I would imagine that's what,
Absolutely. That's absolutely what I meant.
So are we gonna vote on that amendment then to set it at 6:30?
Yes. Okay, let's vote on the amendment for 6:30. Is there any further discussion on that amendment to 6:30? Please, all in favor, wait a minute, Ms. Coward, her hand just went up.
Okay, Mr. Kibler, it's 6:30, you're talking about 6:30 for the meeting for February,
The cow,
for the cow for February.
yes,
Is that right?
that's
And
correct.
then we're gonna vote on the resolution to make, the, starting time at 6 p.m.
No, I'm sorry, I
No.
just saw that resolution. That resolution is not what you did at policy. The resolution is wrong. That italicized language should not be there, so we need to pull that off of consent tonight, because the resolution is inaccurate, as it is not what you did at the policy committee.
Mr. Chairman, I think if we read this correctly, as the rules still stand, since we have not voted tonight, the rules require that our meeting be at 6, so this is incorrect in here. What we can do is vote to suspend the rules, to change it to 6:30, and that's all we can do, or whatever anybody moves. So currently, it is at 6 by rule. This is an error, a typograph in here saying 6:30. That's the way I would read
There's
it.
a
Thank you.
motion to suspend the rules to hold it at 6:30.
6:30. Okay. Let's go back to where we were on the amendment of Mr. Richards, seconded by Ms. Bergson. 6:30 for the next meeting. Okay, fine. Can we have a show of hands in favor of 6:30, please? Show of hands, please. Okay. Show of hands opposed to 6:30, please. I don't think we have to count. Okay, goes back to 6 o'clock. Thank you. All right, let's move on.
Well, you need to.
Oh, we need the
vote on
main
Mr.
motion.
Kittler's motion.
You want to withdraw your main motion?
Sure, I'll withdraw it now.
Okay, thank you.
Since it's
There's a
6
second
o'clock,
want to
we're
withdraw
good.
that, okay? Thank you. 6 o'clock will be the meeting next month. Thank you. Boy, a lot of talk about time. Okay. I guess time's important, isn't it? All right, we're, consent agenda, as we are. Motion to approve the consent agenda,
No,
please.
could we
Whoop.
please remove something
it
from
to the
consent
county board.
first?
Oh, we got to pull, oh, that's right, okay.
Item B2.
We're pulling B2 off of the policy consent agenda. I'm sorry.
Actually, that does not have to be pulled. If you read it through, page 28?
38.
38. Look right above that indented,
Here.
thanks, give it to me, thank you. It's the last, now therefore be it resolved, the Champaign County Resolution number 8306 is hereby amended by removing the bolded and italicized language as follows. That's exactly what we did. So this resolution is fine.
Oh, that's correct. You're right. Okay. Let's keep it on. Yeah, okay. Thank you, Ms. Petrie. Well said. So let's go back to the consent agenda. I need a motion to approve the consent agenda. Mr. James, second. Please, a second, Mr. Kibler. Thank you, please, a second. All right, this is a roll call vote, so may I have the roll call, please?
Bergson? Carter?
Yes.
Cowart?
Yes.
Esri? Harper? Hartke? James? Jay? Kibler?
Yes.
Langenheim? Maxwell? McGuire? Michaels? Mitchell? Petrie? Richards? Schrader? Schwartz? Alex? Kurtz?
Yes, thank you. Let's move to public participation. There are a couple of rules that I'd like to announce. 5 minutes per participant, and we have 1 hour for public participation if it takes that long. So let's start with the first one that I received was Brian, is that a D or an R? Rolinar?
Dolinar.
What's that?
Dolinar.
Dolinar, I'm sorry. Would you press your button in the front there, sir? Thank you.
Good evening. My name's Brian Dolliner. I live at 303 West Locust in Urbana. And I'm happy to be in front of the newly established, leaner, more efficient county board tonight. I'm here to address the drone issue. I'm a journalist with the Public Eye newspaper. My friend Linda Turnbull passed around copies of our newspaper. I wrote the article on why the sheriff of a small Midwestern college town needs a drone. Upon Linda's insistence, I filed a Freedom of Information Act request with the sheriff's office and found that in 2008, Sheriff Dan Walsh purchased a drone. This is an unmanned aerial vehicle. You may have heard of some of these being flown around the Middle East nowadays, but these are much smaller models here used by the sheriff. The Spectra model, which was purchased in early 2008 for around $10,000, is about has a wingspan of about 4 feet. It weighs less than 10 pounds. It has a very sophisticated camera system that provides three-dimensional camera images. This is largely being used by the Sheriff's Investigations Unit to conduct, for example, at least is what it's intended for, according to documents, investigation into a missing person, for example, but it's also being used by the Street Crimes Unit, the Drug Unit, which we can suspect is going to be used to track down suspected drug traffickers, but most often it turns out to be black and brown and poor folks who are surveilled by this kind of technology. So this raises three serious issues I think can be addressed by the county board. Typically, the board, I know, does not have a great deal of oversight and control over the sheriff's budget, but does have some ability for intervention, and that's what I'd like you to consider in regards to this issue. One, the sheriff, according to documents, which I outline in my article, systematically avoided any approval from the county board in order to purchase this drone. Now, according to Ordinance 823, this was provided to me through the help of Deb Busey, who I thank. Ordinance 823 designated back in 2008 that items between $5,000 and $20,000 had to be submitted for a RFP process. There had to be 3 quotes, but somehow the sheriff was allowed to get around this by checking with Susan McGrath and with the administration office and avoid any public or county board scrutiny. Secondly, this was used, the money used came from drug forfeiture money, about $3,000 of the total $10,000 cost for the item. So the county board, I wonder what kind of role the county board is playing in overseeing drug forfeiture money and where that money is going and what the sheriff is doing with it. Simply documenting what the sheriff is doing, that I think would be a step in the right direction. Third, there are other ordinances being proposed across the country for cities, and I think certainly a county could take this on, passing an ordinance to prohibit drones within our airspace of Champaign County. You know, the basic right to privacy, I think, is something that everybody can rally around, both Democrats and Republicans. People of all political stripes concerned about the way in which drones and these kind of all-seeing eyes in the sky, these high-tech cameras, infringe upon people's basic sense of privacy. And lastly, I think there's, again, need for greater oversight of the sheriff, of Dan Walsh. Most recently, he's seen repeated controversies, his participation in the Secure Communities program of holding and detaining suspected immigrants for ICE to pick up, as well as his current campaigning for a new jail, as well as this drone that he's been secretly testing. We believe there's a greater need for oversight and real concern on the part of the county board to really take up this issue of the sheriff's drone. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Linda Turnbull.
Do I have to hit a button too?
Yes, please.
Okay, here we go. Okay, my name is Linda Turnbull. I'm a community liaison. I've been a community liaison for over 30 years now. This drone issue, like he said, is really gotten to be something. It's been over a year now. This thing has been up over in our neighborhood for over a year, following and stalking people. When we first seen it, it really scared us at first because we didn't know what it was, and News Gazette and the police tried to say that we were seeing Mars. But Mars don't come down in the trees and follow you. You know, it was really crazy. Is this in everybody's neighborhood? Do they do it to everyone? Is it just us they doing it to? And who else is with the sheriff that's doing it? Because there's more than one drone that we've seen flying out there. We would like it very much if you investigate this to make sure the citizens' rights are not being violated and broken, because it has been. Because, like I said, it's been over a year. I've seen it all the time. Many others have seen it too. We had people sign petitions about this thing, following people, stalking people. It's a sense of harassment. It's invading your personal privacy. It's like you are a prisoner or you are some kind of person that's not human. I mean, it's something that you would only have to experience to know what I'm saying, what I'm talking about. But you need to investigate how many drones do the sheriff have and who else is with the sheriff that has these drones that's going around Champaign over in low-income area, which I live, because like I said, I'm a grad student for Eastern University, and that's the rent I could afford. And it doesn't mean that everybody who lives over there is a criminal and has to be followed and stalked. I mean, I think that's pretty crazy that that goes on, and I really appreciate it if the board will look into this situation that I'm talking about. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Mr. Kilgore, James Kilgore?
Good evening, James Kilgore, 511 South Draper, Champaign. It's a pleasure to be here again to sort of renew our discussion around the issue of the criminal justice system in Champaign County. Over the course of the past few weeks, I've been doing something a little bit different. I've been visiting a website called rightoncrime.com. And rightoncrime.com isn't a place I would normally go. It's a very conservative website, but it's looking very seriously at the criminal justice system. And I'm surprised to find there that in Right on Crime, which is an organization that has a statement of principles that's been signed by prominent conservatives such as Newt Gingrich, Grover Norquist, Edwin Meese, Jeb Bush, and so forth. But the people at Right on Crime have rejected the way in which the criminal justice system has been operating. Allow me to quote Newt Gingrich, which isn't something I've probably ever done before, but in this case, I quote Newt Gingrich, "There is an urgent need to address the astronomical growth in the prison population with its huge cost in dollars and lost human potential. The criminal justice system is broken, and conservatives must lead the way in fixing it." Now, I would disagree with the last sentence. I would say that it's an issue where all of us should lead the way in fixing it, and I think it's an issue for consensus building, unlike perhaps tax increases, unlike perhaps spending cuts, fiscal cliffs, and so forth. So I'm hoping that we can, within Champaign County, we can move towards some kind of consensus to agree with Newt Gingrich and other people who have said that the philosophy of a failed war on drugs, of locking people up and throwing away the key, and of incarcerating people without providing them with anything other than punishment rather than rehabilitation and some support when they get out on the streets can be stopped. So in the spirit of compromise, I might call this the sort of 6:15 solution, halfway between 6 o'clock and 6:30, that we look for a compromise that we can agree on as we move to discuss the issue of the criminal justice system in Champaign County. And in that spirit, I'd like to invite you to a few events that are going to be happening over the course of the next month. First of all, on February 5th at the Art Theater in downtown Champaign, 126 West Church Street, there'll be a free showing of a film called The House I Live In, which is an analysis of the failed war on drugs. It's been critically acclaimed widely. Secondly, on February 20th at the University of Illinois at 6 p.m., Professor Michelle Alexander of Ohio State University will be speaking. She's written a best-selling book, probably sold more copies than any book on criminal justice in recent times, called New Jim Crow, Mass Incarceration in the Age of Colorblindness, where she's looked at the growth of the prison system and the jails in the country, and particularly with a critical eye toward racial disparity. And then on the 28th of February and the 1st of March, there will be visits here in Champaign County by two people from different sort of political perspectives. One is retired police major Neil Franklin, who once led drug raids in the city of Baltimore when he was a police officer, but now is the director of an organization called Law Enforcement Against Prohibition, which campaigns for drug policy reform. And secondly, someone from the other end of the political spectrum who will be speaking with Neil Franklin, and that is Clifford Thornton, who's the head of an organization called Efficacy, which is based in Connecticut, which is also working on these similar issues. They're going to be having public meetings. They're also going to be meeting with police chiefs and other law enforcement people within the county, and hopefully they will help us move towards some consensus which will take criminal justice in Champaign County in a new direction. I thank you.
All right, I've been asked to call up all three of the next public participation. I have Ms. Linda Tortorelli, Paula Vavanier, and Jennifer Knapp. Ms. Tortorelli would like you to be the first to speak. Please go right ahead.
Hi, thank you. Again, my name is Linda Tortorelli. I'm the coordinator of the autism program at the University of Illinois, and I'm also the board president for Community Choices, which is a human service cooperative that works on employment, housing, social, and family support for adults with developmental disabilities. Jennifer Knapp is with me. She is the Community Choices Executive Director. She's also a community organizer for the Coleman Foundation's Community Partnership Project, which is up in the Chicago area. And I also have Paula Vanier, who is a self-advocate. Anything else you want me to tell you about Paula?
I'm involved with many local organizations and some statewide organizations that offer people with disabilities so we can advocate.
Thank you. We're here tonight to respectfully request the Champaign County Board's support of a resolution to increase membership of the Champaign County Developmental Disability Board from 3 to 5 members. This increase would enhance the ability of the CCDDB to better reflect the diversity of the community, expand the knowledge and experience base of the body making important financial decisions, and allow for more community participation. Members of the CCDDB are comprised of volunteers, which you already know, so increasing the board membership will be at no cost. I have enough, I'll hand around these handouts. Attached is the state statute that was passed back in August of 2009 that actually allowed for county boards to pass a resolution to increase board membership from 3 to 5. This was just brought to my attention, which I brought to Mr. Peter Tracy's attention, who's the director of the DD board and mental health board, about that resolution. As I said, I hope that you'll consider increasing the board from 3 to 5, so for these reasons that I presented. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to participate in public participation at this time? Okay. May I have that sheet, please? Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Jerome Bamberger, please.
All right, just a brief history lesson review for most of you, but figure it's never bad to refresh our memories. This is a history of the public safety sales tax penned by a colleague of mine in CUCPJ. Satellite Jail was completed in 1996, leaving Champaign County with a $10 million construction bond to pay off. In 1997, voters rejected a quarter-cent sales tax by a narrow vote of 10,238 to 10,890. The referendum being lost by a mere 652 votes. In 1998, the county board renewed their push to establish the public safety sales tax, and it was approved by 24,330 votes yes to 21,952 votes no. In both ordinances from 97 and 98, the quarter-cent sales tax was advertised and promised to be repealed once the bonds covering the new addition to the courthouse, the youth detention facility, and the satellite jail from 1996 were paid off. This provision in the original resolution has since been declared illegal, null, and void. In 2003, the then Finance Chairman Barb Wysocki, District 9, appointed a quarter-cent fund comprehensive planning committee to develop a plan for the quarter-cent sales tax. Out of that committee came a recommendation for the county board to approve Ordinance 683, which authorized the quarter-cent sales tax to continue and finance new construction projects for court and detention facilities. A voice vote approved the measure on April 10th, 2003. With the tax extended and freed from its prior restrictions to the 3 original projects, the tax was used to finance a $6.8 million renovation to the old side of the courthouse in 2007. The sales tax has also financed utility bills for public safety buildings. A short timeline. August 4th, 1996, voters approved the countywide referendum to cap property taxes at current levels. August 18th, 1997, my 9th birthday. Policy, Procedures, and Appointments Committee Chairman Don Flessner, District 2, motions for resolution number 3883, a resolution that puts the quarter-cent sales tax for public safety on the November 4th, 1997 ballot. In a voice vote, the resolution is adopted. Skipping forward, August 13th, 1998, the News Gazette announces the quarter-cent sales tax has been again placed on the ballot for the upcoming November 3rd, 1998 election. September 22nd, 1998, Resolution 4012 is changed to be Ordinance 572, authorizing the quarter-cent sales tax to be placed on the November 3rd ballot. November 3rd, 1998, the quarter-cent sales tax is approved. February 6, 2003, Barb Wysocki announces that the county board that the quarter-cent fund comprehensive planning committee has been appointed. April 10th, 2003, Ordinance 683 is proposed by Board Member Wysocki, and on October 6, 2003, an excerpt of a News Gazette article that quoted some board members' reactions to using the quarter-cent sales tax for utilities and new projects includes, quote, a leading county board member, Republican Scott Tapley of Champaign, contends that the shift in quarter-cent funding to include utilities violates the promises made by numerous county board members in '98 when the quarter-cent was approved by voters to use any excess funds to retire bond debt early. Thank you for your time.
Any other further public participation? Thank you. Now close that. And we'll go to communication. Do I have any communication from the board? I have just a couple. One, Mr. Quisenberry has notified me that he is out of town for this meeting. Secondly, I received an email today from Mr. Steve Carter, manager at City of Champaign. He received a call this morning from Ron Smith who indicated that the American Water Company has agreed to join the sole source consortium. They'll match the Champaign funding level, which is what they had requested. So more good news, more are joining the consortium for the sole source water designation. On Monday, I attended and was part of the program for the Martin Luther King Jr. countywide celebration. It was extraordinary. There were at least 200 to 300 people in the room. It filled the room completely. And we were honored by the keynote speaker. The keynote speaker was Mr. Ernest Green. Mr. Ernest Green earned his high school diploma from Central High School in Little Rock, Arkansas. He and 8 other black students were the first to integrate Central High School in 1954, after the U.S. Supreme Court decision in Brown versus Board of Education declared that segregation was illegal. He later went on to become known as part of the Little Rock Nine. I won't go into his accolades, but they are just extraordinary, what he has done in his life, and was awarded, I'll just give you one of his awards. President Clinton presented Ernest Green, along with the rest of the Little Rock Nine, the Congressional Gold Medal, the highest honor given to a civilian for outstanding bravery. It was history in the making, and I was moved by his speech. It was just extraordinary to actually meet the gentleman who made history in 1954. So I just want to say that I thought that this was well done by all who were involved. Mr. Kibler was one of the orchestrators of this countywide celebration. I want to congratulate him personally. This was just a wonderful program. Thank you. That's it for communication. Mr. Carter, please.
I served on that board for many years, and it got to a point where I wonder why. We put all the emphasis in one day out of 365 years a day for that. The rest of the time, 0. We don't do nothing. So I decided it's just a joke. The whole thing is a joke. And we ought to be ashamed. As long as time that we recognize we got a problem is that one day. And the rest of the days of the year, we doing nothing to improve the situation that man died for. It's a shame. I just wanted to make that point.
Mr. Carter, I just want to say there were programs that extended through the entire week around the community. It wasn't just the one day. There were other programs that were announced, and some were taken across the county during this past week. But I understand what you're saying. Thank you. Let's start with the standing committees. Mr. Langenheim, Environment and Land Use, please. Turn on the microphone, please. Thank you.
I move approval of an omnibus motion renewing annual recreation and entertainment and motel licenses for the following businesses. Alto Vineyards, located at 4210 North Duncan Road, Champaign. CC Pink House Incorporated, located at 2698 County Road 1600 North, Ogden. And Motel 6 at 1906 North Cunningham Avenue. These applications are complete, and the sheriff has signed off on each of them.
Mr. Langenheim moves, Mr. Mitchell seconds. Are there any discussion concerning these items? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Langenheim. Let's move to Highway and Transportation. Ms. Coward.
There's nothing from the Highway Committee for board action.
Thank you. We'll move to the facilities. Mr. Alex.
No, Mr. James.
I'm in finance for Mr. Alex and facilities for Mr. James.
You don't want me on finance.
I don't want you on finance. Thank you.
There's no action item in our report either, other than I'd like to say that I think this is going to be a good committee, and we're going to have a great 2 years getting things put together.
Thank you. I'm glad to hear that. Let's move on to policy. Mr. Quisenberry is not here, but Mr. Kibler is. So, Mr. Kibler.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There's only one item up for discussion today. I move the adoption of ordinance number 919, rescinding ordinance number 522 for the licensure of waste haulers in Champaign County, and I so move.
Second. I have a second by Ms. Coward. Thank you. Are there any discussion on this item?
Hello.
Mr. Alex?
Question, this is in fact just amending the ordinance, right? Not
Yes,
rescinding the ordinance?
Ms. Monty is here. The changes were in this packet, is that correct, Susan? Yes. That was discussed at the last meeting. Could you please turn on your microphone if there's any questions? Ms. Monty, everything was changed as per.
Right. The memo here describes which portions of this additional exemptions were striked out based on our discussion for additional clarity.
Thank you. Mr. Allen?
My question to clarify is just whether rescinding is the appropriate wording of the motion. I understand that's how it's written, but is that the correct, I mean, we're not rescinding the ordinance in its entirety.
Well, actually, the original ordinance is completely restated here, so for clarity in the future, people don't have to look at two different ordinances to know what our ordinance says on this. So, yes, it is rescinding the original.
Okay, thank you
with
for that.
changes.
Thank you for that explanation.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, now, we correctly identify Mr. Alex as the Finance Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move adoption of resolution number 8414, authorizing payment of claims.
Second.
Second by Ms. Michaels. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Number 2.
I move adoption of resolution number 8415, purchases not following the purchasing policy.
Second.
Mr. Gonzalez.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, how you doing?
Pretty good.
Good
Did
to
you
see
check
you.
me in when I came
Nice
in?
to have you back with us.
Welcome.
Second by Mr. Rosales. Any further discussion on this item? Ms. Petrie?
I have a couple of questions if Mr. Farney is available.
Good evening.
Good evening. I'm not going to ask you about the nursing home items because you sort of forewarned us about that. I did count them. There are an interesting 44 entries.
Yes.
On that. That's a bit overwhelming. But my focus has to do with. It's on. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. My focus has to do with why is the bills late coming in on electrical service on like public properties and things like that?
I believe we talked about those at the committee meeting. Those aren't necessarily late. They crossed fiscal years. So let's say a bill went from November 25th to December 25th. They got put onto here.
Thanks, I forgot.
I believe we're ready to vote.
Thank you. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Move adoption of resolution number 8416, authorizing budget amendment 13-9. This is for increased appropriations of $14,000, appropriating the funds committed by the county board for the Mahomet Aquifer Coalition intergovernmental agreement as per county board resolution number 8402.
Bergson? Carter? Cowart? Esri? Harper? Hartke? James? Jay? Kibler?
Yes.
Langenheim? Maxwell?
Yes.
McGuire? Michaels? Mitchell?
Yes.
Petrie? Richards?
Yes.
Rosales?
Yes.
Schrader? Schwartz? Alex? Kurtz?
And finally, Mr. Chair, I move that the auditor's report be accepted and placed on file.
I'd like to have a motion for that, please. Mr. Carter, second, Ms. Michaels. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
That concludes finance.
Chair, I think you skipped the summary of action. Oh, I'm sorry. On the committee of the whole. Oh, I did, I'm sorry. Let's move back to area responsive summary of action. Committee of the whole meeting. I have a motion to place on file.
We don't do that.
What? No, it's a summary of actions and policy.
You don't do anything with that.
Yeah, we don't, yeah.
I stand corrected.
Thank you. In your mind. All right, may I have a motion to adjourn? So moved. So moved. Oh, okay, a second? Or- Are we going to go to new business? I'm sorry, Ms. Petrie has new business.
Well, I wasn't going to announce this, but Mr. Kilgore did mention some of the various activities that are going on in our community, which fold into what we're focusing on the jail and criminal justice issues. And on the 27th of February, Merle Evers-Williams will be in town and will be talking, giving her talk at KCPA and Fullinger Hall, and that should be quite an interesting presentation on her part. Thank you very much.
Any other new business? I'm not, well, go ahead. Astrid, put on your microphone, please.
Since we skipped justice this time because we had no action things, I'd just like to announce that the task force will start meeting Monday at 6 in the Putnam room.
Putnam meeting room. Any other new business? Lloyd, did you have something? Put on your microphone, please.
All right. It was two things came up tonight, and I was wondering, nobody never said nothing, whether they gonna consider them or what. Well, the presentation that you had the people come in warn about the drone. Did you gonna do anything or say anything or just leave it go or what, you know?
Yeah, it was public participation, Lloyd, and we had no action on it on the agenda. So
Well, I'm just saying, Mr. Chair, they asking you for some kind of consideration. You know.
Well, I can certainly check with the sheriff. I'm not sure what they want. Do they want us to, what do they want to do? They announced that there is a drone, and if you have, I'm sorry. Ms. Bergson?
I think it's something that the Justice Committee probably.
Okay. We'll take it up on Monday. It'll be taken up on Monday evening by.
No, Justice Committee.
Oh, the Justice Committee, not the task force. I'm sorry. So, yes, Mr. Carter, what's the other item?
Yeah, because, you know, well, fact of the matter, we've been bringing this problem up. And to me, why is it that we have an entity in the county, supposed to be under our jurisdiction, all we pay is the lawsuits? This don't make no sense. And this is not the first time that this has been mentioned. But I guess, you know, we only recognize when it comes to certain folks. I hate to say this, but it seemed that way. Now, why is it that we can't do nothing to that department but pay the lawsuits? Are you listening? Okay. Well, take that under consideration.